are watching the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports, and on today's show, I want to recap all of the UDFAs the Broncos have signed since they added a few from the video I put out a few days ago going over the initial tracker, and I figured why not just give out some very generous grades so that you guys can have a better idea as to who these UDFAs are, since the Broncos do have such a rich history of UDFAs making their 53-man roster. Now, I was looking at the YouTube analytics for last April compared to this April, and we had just completely demolished our subscriber limit or subscriber additions from a year ago to present day. So go ahead and hit that sub button down below so we can continue piling on from our sub record last April. Now, like I said, the Broncos have a very rich history of UDFAs making their roster. Jaleel McLaughlin, Alex Palchevsky, Thomas and Crum. 3 guys last year alone who made it. Season prior, Jaylon Virgil, Andre Mincy in 2021, Philip Lindsay earlier than that, Chris Harris Jr. back in 2011. So this is a franchise that takes a lot of pride in doing a lot of work after the NFL draft is over. Now, the first UDFA I want to look at is running back out of Memphis, Blake Watson. I'm going to be very generous with all these grades because it's honestly such an achievement to already get to this stage. As a guy that went undrafted, Watson had a really good career for the short career for the Memphis Tigers, long career with the Old Dominion Monarchs to begin his collegiate career, 1,600 yards, 17 touchdowns, and you can look at the Broncos running back room, and it's got a lot of near roster locks already in it. Williams is a lock, but I think Jaleel McLaughlin and Samaje Perine and 5th-round pick Audric Estime, they are all locks to make this roster. So it'll be an uphill battle for Watson, but you never know. Injuries pop up, and I think he's someone that the Denver Broncos have a good eye on. Next guy up is wide receiver Lincoln Victor from Washington State. The notes I've got on him is started off at Hawaii, I beg your pardon. Then he transferred into Washington State. He was an honorable mention all Pac-12 player, 860 yards, 5 touchdowns. Not the biggest dude in the world, 5'9", under 180 pounds, but has some good speed to his game, so he could maybe make a highlight reel or two during training camp. Next player I'm going to give a B- to is Dylan Leonard. Only reason I'm giving a B- is he's super duper smart, went to Georgia Tech, so this is probably the lowest grade he's ever gotten in his life. But the former Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket, 3-year starter, he was one of 20 semifinalists for the 2023 Jason Witten Collegiate Man of the Year Award. So the Broncos are getting a guy with a great head on his shoulders, and in a tight end room that's definitely up for grabs, I'd say. Can Greg Dulcich, A, stay healthy? B, how much trust and confidence is there in Adam Trotman? And then after that, it is very much up for grabs. So Dylan Leonard, in my eyes, has an opportunity to snag a roster spot like we saw UDFA tight end Jordan Akins do last year. So I even forgot one of my UDFAs earlier. There's that many UDFAs that made the 53-man roster. The next one is tight end Thomas Yassmin from Utah. I'm giving it an A+ for one reason only. He's from Australia, and I need some media clips from him during training camp with that accent. So, Denver Broncos media crew, do your job. Next is Frank Crum out of Wyoming. I'm going to give this one an A+ as well. I had a draftable grade on him to begin with, but more importantly, this one just comes down to the flow. He's got wicked hair, incredible flow. It looks like he was born for the Minnesota State hockey tournament. So for the Broncos to get him and also give him a good chunk of change, I think there's actual serious interest in them seeing Crum make the 53-man roster or at least have a better shot at it than maybe some other UDFAs. Now, will a UDFA make the Broncos roster? I mean, literally mid-video, I remembered a 4th guy that made the roster last year as a UDFA. So I definitely think someone we are talking about today will make this 53-man roster. Now, like I mentioned with Crum, he's going to have an opportunity to compete with Alex Palchevsky, Matt Peart, and Jacobs for maybe a 3rd or 4th tackle spot, depending on how deep the Broncos want to go at offensive tackle. So keep an eye on Crum if you want to sound smart in front of your friends of, hey, who's a UDFA that could make their roster? Those guys never stand a chance. Remind them, for the Broncos, they do, and Crum would be an excellent choice. Now, before we look at the other UDFAs and the grades I've got for them, Quick plug here because Bo Nix jerseys are available for Broncos country when you go to chatsports.com/Nix. If you are excited about the next chapter of Broncos football and hopefully the answer to a lot of Broncos prayers for the last decade, check it out today, chatsports.com/Nix. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. So the next UDFA I want to look at is Brandon Matterson, defensive tackle out of UTSA. I'm going to give Matterson a B grade. Third team All-AAC last year, 6-year player, 5 sacks in his collegiate career. So probably benefited a little bit towards the end of being an absolute adult going up against little children, depending on if they were 17 or 18-year-olds as a freshman in college. But we'll give the defensive tackle a B grade. Another player to watch for is Jordan Miller out of SMU. I'm going to give Miller an A grade? Yeah, A grade. 6'3", 307 pounds. He went to the Shrine Bowl, so for a player to be on the Shrine Bowl's radar, there's definitely some good tape to be had. And with Denver really needing help on the defensive line, I'm excited about this signing here. I think Miller's got a decent chance to make the roster. Next one up is a bit of a local guy. It is Air Force linebacker Alec Mock. I'm giving him an A grade for no reason at all because of his football abilities, but because he is serving this great country. So, Alec, you get an A. Next linebacker is from Fresno State. It's Levelle Bailey. Bailey's going to get a B because I gave Mock an A, so I feel like I got to balance him out a little bit. But here's what I got on Bailey. 5-year player, 4-year starter. He was a Mountain West honorable mention 3 times and second team All-Mountain West in 2023. And when you look at the Broncos linebacker room, there is some wiggle room behind Alex Singleton and Cody Barton. And if Drew Sanders plays outside linebacker, then you've got like a real competition to be the backup between Justin Stranad, Jonas Griffith, Alec Mock, and then Bailey like we just talked about. So keep an eye on the UDFA linebackers. The glass is, it's not bulletproof. You could definitely break through it to make the roster. Next one up is Jaylon Allen, edge rusher from Memphis. Going to give Jaylon a B. Notes I've got on Allen, second team All-AAC in 2023. He was a 3-year starter, 6 years at Memphis, all things considered, 40 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. So some good physical attributes and some good production to go along with it. Next one up is safety from Nebraska, Omar Brown. I'm going to give Omar an A grade. The notes I've got on Omar, first off, let's start by looking at the Broncos running back, safety room, I beg your pardon, because I'm giving Omar an A grade in part because this is a safety room that definitely has some spots to be taken. Like, can Delaren Turner-Yell and J.L. Skinner and Devon Key, can they all secure a roster spot? I don't think they're a lock by any stretch. The only locks I have are Brandon Jones, P.J. Locke, and I'll toss in Caden Stearns. But if he can't stay healthy, that would definitely open things up. But Omar Brown specifically started off at Northern Iowa. He was really good there. Then he transfers to Nebraska for his last 2 seasons. Honorable mention All Big Ten player a season ago, and he went to the Shrine Bowl as well. The Broncos also recently added another safety. It is Cam Allen from Purdue. I'm giving Cam Allen a B+ grade. A lot of what I just said for Omar Brown goes for Cam Allen when it comes to there being some wiggle room in the safety room for him to jump up. The notes I've got on Cam Allen for the Boilermakers, started off at Purdue. He was there for a long time, so there are some good attributes to his game. He is 6'1", 200 pounds, ran a 4.55 40-yard dash. So from a physical makeup standpoint, he's a pretty average Joe and solid run tackler. Doesn't have great ball skills, though. And then finally, we've got Quentin Nelson, cornerback out of Nebraska. I'm going to give Quentin Nelson a B grade. I like the Quentin Nelson grade. I like the Quentin Nelson addition here because he does have some great ball skills to his game. He was really dynamic for the Cornhuskers, multi-year starter. So I think he's got a pretty good chance of making this roster if he has a good training camp. Now, we do have one more as well. It was the punter from Texas A&M, Nick Constantino. So we've got a punter, and I feel like a punter is good for like a B+, right? Because, well, I'm not going to give a punter an A, but I'm not going to give him a B, so how about right in the middle at a B+. But which UDFA will make the roster? Let me know down in the comment section below which one of these guys can end up actually making the 53-man roster. For me, I would go with Frank Crum. I feel like he has the best chance. There was a good amount of investment made in Crum to begin with, so keep an eye on the former Wyoming Poke.